What's up, everybody? Welcome to the video. We're here breaking down the Enjoy Illinois 300 at Gateway for Sunday, June 2nd around 3 p.m. Eastern. And we are fresh off the Coca-Cola 300, whatever it was. Extremely disappointing. Was looking forward to that race all weekend. Indy 500 gets delayed. Kyle Larson ends up finishing the race, flying in, and does not even get to turn a lap. And then we have the track pretty much dry, and the NASCAR says we can't continue because of humidity. I don't know, everything was just pretty lame all weekend, so just disappointing, and I'm still salty about it, but we'll move on. And I know this is not the most exciting race in the world, but we'll have to make do. But anyway, if this happens to be your first time here, what's up? My name is Pennell. I break down NASCAR DFS each and every single week on this channel. Videos on Saturdays, live streams on Sundays, planning for around 12 or 1 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, so come in, say hi. Always a good time. And normally I would shout out last week's comment contest winner, but not one person picked Christopher Bell to lead the most laps. Trust me, I wouldn't have either, so nobody wins, unfortunately. But we're going to run it right back. So in the comments down below, all you got to do is comment who you think is going to lead the most laps and how many, and the winner will get a cash prize. And if you do enjoy today's video, make sure you leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new, and let's dive right into it. All right, so let's talk some strategy here for Gateway, and I just want to put it out there right now. There is rain in the forecast for the morning session for practice and qualifying, so if that happens to get rained out, we're going to set the grid by the lineup formula, which, throwback to COVID, if you guys played back then, that's exactly what it is, and Bob did tweet it out, so you can kind of do the math on that. And I'm recording this part before Saturday morning, so this might be completely irrelevant. We might have had a full practice and qualifying session, which I am crossing my fingers for, because that is going to be big, because this is a weird track, which I'll get into in a second. So if we don't have that practice information, it's definitely going to want me to play a little bit lighter this weekend, because there's definitely going to be some guesstimation needed. So Gateway, it's a shorter flat track, although it's really not that short. It's 1.25 miles in length, so it's not quite a 1.5, but it's also not as small as like a Phoenix or a Richmond. And it is a shorter flat track, shorter, I should say. It's not really that short of a track, but we're also running the intermediate package, so just kind of weird all around. Like, I don't really know what to compare it to. I would say the most similar tracks are going to be Richmond, Phoenix, and I guess New Hampshire. But at the same time, this track is a bit bigger and we're at the intermediate package. So I really just don't know how to put it together. So that's why practice would be so important for me this weekend. But I really just think the drivers that we typically see near the front are probably going to be near the front unless we have any crazy surprises. They're using the same tire this weekend that they used at Phoenix and Richmond earlier in the season. So I would say guys that showed some speed in those races have a decent chance of being fast once again. But I don't think it's going to be an exact science. And again, in the event that practice ended up getting canceled, I think this would be some useful information. Even if it does not get canceled, I still think this is interesting to look at. So this is the entire green flag speed chart that I compile. So if we just take it the overall, this is the entire next gen era, pretty much every single track besides road courses and super speedways. We can see generally who are the fastest cars. We have the short flats, which you can kind of look at this week. It might be somewhat relevant, but again, it's a little bit different. But as we can see, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, and Byron. Tops of the chart. Also, Joey Logano's a little bit faster here than pretty much he is anywhere else. And every single time we're at a shorter flat track, Joey Logano does look somewhat more interesting. Obviously, I don't really care about the road courses too much. You can look at intermediates because this is an intermediate track that is running that package, and it's always the same guys, really. Like, obviously, some surprise winners always happen, just depending on late cautions and things like that. But generally speaking, it's typically these guys up front dominating the races. I have the similar tracks here, which Truex, Bell, Blaney, Byron, Larson, Logano, Hamlin, some familiar faces, although it's a smaller sample size here. So sometimes if you see like a Denny Hamlin down that much farther, it could just be because of like one poor race that took him out a little bit. This specific tire combination, it's a 2-race sample size, so it's hard to put too much into it this year, but 3 Toyotas up top, Byron, Buescher, Reddick, Larson's a little bit lower there. And then if we look at the entire overall, what I want to look at this week, combining it, Hamlin, Truex, Larson, Byron, Bell, Blaney. So I think it's somewhat interesting to look at. So if we don't have practice this week, you can kind of use this as your example. But even if we do, it's nice to have something to look at. And finally, moving on to the driver by driver breakdown, I do have to mention one thing first. That is, of course, if you enjoying the best NASCAR DFS community out there, link is down below in the description or the pinned comment for that. For the Patreon, access to the entire NASCAR model, which has all the data you ever need, color coded nice and neat. So it's quite easy to follow projections for both sites, my optimizer, ownership projections, cheat sheets, my entire betting dashboard, articles going over cash games, tournaments, and my favorite bets this weekend, and obviously the Discord community, which we are in all the time. And I do cover baseball each and every single day in a similar fashion, and I do trucks and Xfinity projections in addition to Cup as well. And if you're to come in, check it out, you know where to find me, links down below. And as you all know, I'm a partner of Stochastic, and they did launch their NASCAR Sims tool this season, so if you want to check it out and give yourself an advantage on Sundays, you can use their contest generator, pre-contest simulator, and find which drivers have the best ROI heading into Sunday and which lineups stack up the best in tournaments. You can upload my projections, use your own, or use the ones already set on the site. You can get access to this tool using the link down below in the description, and just make sure you tell them I sent you. All right, it's the next day, and lucky for us, we got a full practice and qualifying session in, and we did run everybody in the same group for 30 minutes. So honestly, it worked out better than it probably would have, because we don't have to do groups and we don't have to find the discrepancies between the groups. And we got qualifying in. Now, the one thing I want to mention is that the track is probably a lot cooler than it's going to be tomorrow. We did have some cloud cover as well, and we did have some rain that delayed practice for a few minutes. But tomorrow is going to be, looks like mostly sunny, partly cloudy in the mid 80s. So the track is going to be a little bit different. So maybe don't put everything into practice, because the track is certainly going to be changed from what we saw this morning. But anyway, we did get the practice in, and based off of that, it looks like Team Penske and Joe Gibbs are going to be the best cars, and the Chevys and Hendrick in general was really lacking speed. As you can see, Bowman all the way down here. We have William Byron, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott. So maybe their cars are set up better for how the weather is going to be tomorrow. But Team Penske, as you can see, they killed it, top 3 across the board here for the overall averages. Then you had Joe Gibbs right behind them. So interesting session there. Definitely had a couple of surprises with Austin Cindric being that quick. And then we also have Michael McDowell on the pole and Austin Cindric on the front row. So definitely pretty interesting there. But we'll start with the 5-figure range first. And as per usual, I try to want to group these guys just to make it more simple. So I would say Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, and Christopher Bell. Those are your potential early dominators. You could also throw in Tyler Reddick and Brad Keselowski, $9,700, $9,500 in that same group. I want to stay within the price ranges here. So Bell, Blaney, Hamlin definitely have the cars that are able to dominate a race like this. We know Hamlin didn't fire off that strong, but he got really good in the long run, 7th, 4th, 2nd, and 1st in the 20 lap. And we know how good he's been this year up front, pretty much every single race. Didn't get the opportunity last week because it got cut short, but he definitely had a really good car. Now, if we're looking at the data sets that I'm looking at this weekend, like I said earlier, it's a very weird track. So I use Gateway plus the 2024 short flats, which are Phoenix and Richmond. I did not throw Martinsville in there. Then we have the 14 race sample size of these tracks since the next gen. And then we have the 10 race sample size that I want to look at for the 2024 season. And Hamlin, I mean, it's just good numbers all around. I don't really see a reason not to like him. Looks like he's going to have a strong car. Toyota looks fast. So yeah, if you're looking for a dominator, Hamlin's in play. Ryan Blaney, love him on both sites. He is very cheap over on FanDuel. Obviously, there's not that much place differential upside there. So if you're playing Blaney, he's got to get dominator points. He's got to finish top 5. But I definitely think he is capable of doing that. These odds are pre-practice and qualifying, so it actually might go a bit shorter for Ryan Blaney because he was one of the best cars in practice, second, third, and first in the 15. And if we're looking at this data set here, Ryan Blaney has very strong overall numbers here on Gateway in the past, and this 14 race sample size, Ryan Blaney has some of the best overall numbers. So I don't really see a reason not to like him here. The price on FanDuel is extremely cheap. DraftKings makes it a little bit tougher, but he is right there with Denny Hamlin as being one of the potential dominators. We know how fast Team Penske looked on Saturday. My only worry is if the track heats up, they're not going to be as strong. But hey, if you unload fast, I mean, it's better than not unloading fast, I guess, in any condition. And then Christopher Bell starting in 4th. Just pretty much everything I said for Blaney and Hamlin can apply here. And if we're looking at Bell, he does have a win at Phoenix earlier in the season, which they are using the same tires this weekend. And some of the best overall numbers. We know how good he is at these types of tracks. So I think Bell, Blaney, Hamlin, you put them in those early dominator categories. And then Kyle Larson, Martin Truex, and William Byron, they have the potential to win the race and be potential dominators in the second half, but they do have their work cut out for them. I will say Hendrick looked extremely slow on Saturday, so Larson and Byron probably have to be a tick below Martin Truex Jr. for me because Toyota looked really strong overall. And we did mention earlier that Truex did have the best green flag speed in this tire combination so far. 10th in the 1 lap in practice, 8th in the 5 lap. He's one of those guys that can get their car and just be good over the long run at these types of tracks. And if we're looking at this 4 race sample size, Martin Truex Jr. is basically first in every single category. He's been in the top 10 each of the 4 races and has the most dominator points as well. So I think starting in 19th, Martin Truex Jr. makes for an excellent play, and you can easily pair him with one of the early dominators, and I think that would be a nice way to go. Dropping out of the 9K range, Tyler Reddick, Brad Keselowski, kind of in that early dom group, although I would say they're in the second tier compared to the first tier there. So if you're playing 20 lineups, you're playing 150, that's when you start getting to these guys. If I'm hand building, I'm going to have a hard time getting to Reddick and Keselowski. I mean, I love what I've seen out of Kes the previous few weeks, and I think they'll have speed. Obviously, they showed it in qualifying, and Tyler Reddick showed some good long-run speed in practice when Toyota is fast, but I am going to have to put them pretty much a tier below the guys we just talked about, but they're still in that dominator pool. Joey Logano, $9,300, only $9,000 on FanDuel. It looks like he's going to be one of the better plays on the slate. He has won here at Gateway before, and he obviously crushed practice first in the 1 through 10 lap runs, and then third in the 15. And if we're looking at similar tracks here for Joey Logano, some pretty solid overall numbers, 3 top 5s and a 4 race sample size. I believe he has been top 5 in each of the Gateway races. And if we're looking at the 14 race sample size here, we're at these flatter tracks, and especially the ones of the shorter variety, Joey Logano tends to put up some pretty good numbers. He has been kind of dreadful at intermediates in general in the next gen era, but he has been good at Gateway and short flats. So I think Joey is a fine play, especially over on FanDuel. Like, I get a $2,000 to near $3,000 discount off a guy like Tyler Reddick and Brad Keselowski for Joey here, and you give me more PD spots. So I think I'll just take that. And he did show stronger straight speed in practice. And then Chase Elliott, $9,000, only $8,500 on FanDuel. I could see him being more of a play over there, but he's starting in 17th. The only issue is Hendrick was just so bad on Saturday. It is a little concerning. 18th, 31st, 26th, and 19th. I'm sure they're going to find some speed, and maybe if the track is a bit warmer tomorrow, that's going to help them out, but it's a little concerning. I don't think they're going to be 30th place cars, but they certainly didn't practice that well. So I would right now I do prefer Joey over Chase Elliott, even though we're giving up 5 extra place differential spots, but that's not to say you can't play both on FanDuel. On DraftKings, you're probably not getting the both because you have to get some dominators mixed in. Going to the 8K range, Kyle Busch is going to kick us off. He is starting in 10th. Has been very good at Gateway, 1.5 average finish in 2 races, won the last race and finished second in the previous, starting from 12th. And as you can see here, good numbers in this data set, but it's pretty much all coming from Gateway because of the shorter flat tracks. And I know Gateway is not that short, but I don't know how else to describe it. An intermediate, flat, somewhat shorter track. I don't know what else to call it. So I'm just going to call it a short, flat track. But keep in mind, I do know it's not like a half mile in length. But RCR has been terrible at these track types. But at Gateway, Kyle Busch has been good. So something's going to give here. It looks like they're going to have a little bit of speed this weekend. And if you're going to play Kyle Busch, it's going to be in the intermediate package. It's just really tough to trust that pit crew and him in general. He spends a lot. He speeds on pit road, and they commit a lot of penalties in the pits. So very tough guy to trust. So I don't really see myself getting to a lot of Kyle Busch. Ty Gibbs, $8,600. He's starting in 9th. I'd rather play Ty Gibbs over Kyle Busch. Just showed more speed overall, and I can trust a JGR car, I think, over an RCR car these days. 3rd, 5th, 6th, 6th, 2nd, and 2nd in practice. Ty Gibbs, just the cheapest JGR car. I say this every single week, and he pretty much always starts in the top 10, so he is almost always the same play each and every single weekend. Chris Buescher will be the popular play of this AK range, and I think he's fine for cash. I know he didn't show a lot of speed in practice, 23rd in the 1 lap, 33rd in the 5, and 21st in the 10. But RFK showed a lot of speed recently, and Keselowski was faster, and these guys typically run pretty much the same, so I'm sure Buescher will find some speed. So on both sides, I think he is a fine cash play for where he is starting. Ross Chastain, Alex Bowman, and Bubba Wallace. No, Bubba's in the 7K range, so we'll stick with Chastain and Bowman here. Pretty much the same exact plays here, although it looks like Ross has a little bit more speed. Top 10 across the board in practice. Bowman did find some long run speed, which was kind of not like his teammates, because Elliott was 26 in the 10 lap. Kyle Larson was 25th. And William Byron was 12th, so he was a little bit quicker. But Bowman was actually the fastest of the bunch in the 10 lap, which I think is somewhat interesting. So his price point, maybe you get to him a little bit, but him and Ross, basically the same play, and I honestly don't see myself having a lot of them. But over on FanDuel at their price points, and even on DraftKings, if it's like your last piece fit for a tournament, I'm alright with that, but I don't think I'd go there in cash games. In the 7K range, we have Bubba Wallace, and kind of like the same exact play as Chastain and Bowman, although he starts further up, so the floor is a little bit lower. Really just if you're playing a tournament lineup and you just end up on like $8,000 left, like I wouldn't fault you if you just want to throw Bubba Wallace in because the ownership will be lower, and he has shown speed at intermediates. Then we have the SHR clan, Gregson, Briscoe, and Barry. No Ryan Preece, he's in the 6K range somewhere. None of these guys looked extremely quick, although, I mean, if you're looking at the long run averages, they look quicker, but keep in mind, not as many guys ran those, like half the field's missing. So yes, Josh Berry is 4th in the 25 lap, but let's keep in mind only 8 guys ran that, and a couple of them are Justin Haley, Daniel Suarez, Ryan Preece, and like Gregson and them. So it's not like, yeah, he's the 4th best car in the 25 lap. I don't think it's going to be that fast. So if I had to rank them, I don't think any of them are going to be amazing, but they do offer some PD. I would say Josh Berry first because he's in 29th, and he was just a little bit quicker than Gregson. Gregson would be 2nd, and then Briscoe in 3rd here. Just really slow overall, the least amount of PD upside. And he's been pretty slow intermediates in general. Then Eric Jones, I don't really see any reason to want to play him. He's starting in 22nd, so he offers less PD than any of the SHR guys, and 35th and 36th in practice. I kind of like him more at the higher speed intermediates. I'm not really in on Eric Jones this weekend. 6K range, we have Daniel Suarez. He's in 31st. Pretty much a 20th place car in practice. And if you're looking at this data set that I'm looking at for Gateway and the Richmond and Phoenix races this year, pretty much a 15th place car. So if he can contend for a top 20, I will take it. I don't think the upside is extremely high though. Ryan Preece, I'm probably going to have to pass on. He was just slow, and he's always slow. And yes, he offers PD, but I would trust Daniel Suarez a little bit more. And it gets a little bit interesting here. So let's just talk about Michael McDowell and Austin Cindric together. They're going to be starting in the front row. Obviously, have very fast cars in practice. And if they were not starting in the front row, these guys would be excellent plays. But man, it is tough. If you were playing Michael McDowell, obviously he's going to have to lead some laps of some sort. And we know he's not going to dominate and win the race. Probably wouldn't have that I said that, but in the most likely scenario where that does not happen, he probably fades back to like 8th to 12th on a really good day, which I think he's capable of getting a top 10. It's just a matter of how many 100 points going to get and what are the other 6K guys potentially going to do. Because if all these other 6K and cheap drivers just don't do that well and finish near the back, there is a chance where if McDowell can get some fast laps mixed in, lead some laps early on until one of the better drivers passes them and kind of lands around 10th place. If we look at the heat map here, Michael McDowell gets 10th, that's 25 points, which obviously doesn't look amazing, but at the same time, at his price point, it might work out. I don't think you really need to go there in cash games. If you got, I don't have it in me to want to play McDowell in cash games. I just think there's so much that could go wrong there. One issue on pit road could just absolutely derail your day. So 9th and 15 lap, 9th and the 10, like he's got a decent car. And I feel like these front row cars are basically Penske cars these days. But really tough to trust that. Like you have Todd Gillen starting in 35th. While he didn't show the same kind of speed in practice, it just feels a lot safer to go that route in cash games rather than Michael McDowell. So I'm not going to say that you can't play McDowell. Like he's in the player pool because if he does any kind of domination in stage 1 and just stays within the top 10, he's going to crush that price point. But there's a lot of downside there. Austin Dillon, I won't touch. Austin Cindric, same exact thing as Michael McDowell here, where extremely fast car in practice, Team Penske looked absolutely hooked. I thought he was going to get the pole for a bit, then I forgot Michael McDowell had to go at the end. But I just think it's likely these guys move back. So I just really can't put my stamp of approval too much on them. But if they stay within the top 10, these other 6K guys that have PD just don't really get there. That's when it can work out. But the floor is extremely low. Like if they just fade to around 20th place, I mean, you're looking for 1.4 points for Michael McDowell and like 5 points, 2 points for Austin Cindric. And that's kind of where those guys end up being quite often. I mean, if you're looking at their averages for this data set here, Austin Cindric's typically a 20th place guy. He's got top 15 potential, which I think he does this weekend. And Michael McDowell, a 15th place average finish with running position of around 17th. Does have 2 top 10s mixed in, but just know the downside is quite high. But there's a little bit of a ceiling in there. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. starting in 24th. Not really seeing anything too great in the data set here. Running position of around 22nd, average finish of around 30th. But if we're looking at practice, 19th, 23rd, 14th, 11th, I think he could do worse than Ricky Stenhouse. He definitely has a better floor than guys like Cindric and Michael McDowell. And I believe he ran pretty well here last year, if I remember correctly. Then 5K range, Carson Hocevar starting in 20th is the same play every single week, although he did show decent speed in practice. So I guess just because there's probably not going to be many cheap guys to play down here, he's viable. LaJoy, I'm going to have to pass on, starting in 15th. Justin Haley in 21st. Probably where he's going to run, if not lose a couple of spots. So I don't really see myself having too much Justin Haley. I mean, you can play Hocevar, who is pretty much the same exact play, starting 20th and 21st, but he showed more speed overall in practice. And it's not like these guys were in different groups. So I guess I have to give Hocevar the edge there. John Nemechek starting in the back, but he looks like he's going to be extremely slow. Zane Smith, $5,400 in the very back in 36. Actually showed some decent speed in practice. 21st in the 5, 15th in the 10. So, I mean, if you just need an absolute punt down here to get the extra dominators in there. I mean, Zane Smith can't go backwards. Probably won't go too much forward, but it looks at least he had some decent speed in practice. He was faster than Hemrick, faster than Burton. Kind of on par with Derek Kraus down here, but he's starting up in 25th. And faster than Cody Ware. So I would say Zane Smith, Hocevar, a couple of these Spire guys look like decent plays down low. But with that being said, that's all I got for you guys this week. So I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, or even if you didn't, make sure you leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. I'll have all the extra stuff over on Patreon later tonight if you want to check that out. And then the live stream tomorrow. Hopefully I will see you there. But I wish you all the best, and I'll see you all next time.